Crypto! What the hey, dude?
Hello there, and welcome to an all-new episode of Talking Smack, where we talk superheroes, movies, animation, comics, and much, much more. I am your host, Josh Scar. Joining me, as always, is my co-host, the sassiest little kitty cat you've ever seen, is Alex. Alex, how are you doing?
Don't talk to me. Just don't. And get your glass off the table or I'll knock it off. This is my table. This is my keyboard.
Just need to see what happens.
Mm-hmm.
But we are also joined by someone who seems to be very excited to be back on camera, and Mike, that's Matt. Matt, the true star of the show. How are you doing
Finally
today?
back. I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Been a long day for me. Ended up having to buy a new washing machine for the clothes.
Great.
And it was supposed to be a nice, easy day, but spent half my morning trying to take care of the old washing machine, having to avoid spending money. But unfortunately, it was not meant to be. That thing's flooding itself, won't drain.
Great.
And the only thing that it can be is, at this point, is probably a clogged drain pump. And basically, to get someone in here to look at it, I might as well pay the extra like $200 or however much difference it is, and just buy
Get yourself a new toy.
Because it's only going to
Get yourself a new toy.
Yeah. And it'll match the other one that we replaced a couple of years ago anyway. So Ricky's happy about that. Not the money spent, but the fact that she has matching appliances.
Is it going to be Wi-Fi enabled?
It is, as everything is now. We actually,
Of course it is.
2 weekends ago, I actually installed a new garage door opener, and that's Wi-Fi enabled too. And actually, that is like the best thing I think that's like my most adult purchase that I'm just like, hell yes.
We've got one of those too. And
because
it's
now
pretty
I can
nice opening the garage from the phone. Yeah.
I can lay in bed and be like, did I leave the garage door open? Let me open the app instead of having to walk all the way downstairs. Now I could just click the button and know the door is shut.
Yeah. And ours, I think you can set it so that if you didn't, there's like a time where it's like, oh, it's open, shuts it automatically.
Ooh, I'll have to look and see if I have that. I don't know if I have that feature, but I'll double check now. That's a nice feature.
I just press a button and it works great.
That must be nice for not having like a 30-year-old garage door opener.
Oh,
I have a button too.
It is
It's on my phone.
years old. Just gonna okay. Just another app on your phone. Another thing just wants to know where you are at all times. You could just use your feet.
You can disable those things
and look out. Oh, we know they're not actually disabled. Come on. There's been enough whistleblowers about that. You could just walk over to a window and be like, yes, it's closed.
I can't see my garage door from a window. That must be nice too.
So the Wi-Fi for this machine is that I assume you can start and stop the washing machine from your phone.
It gives me updates that the wash, like where it is in the wash cycle, and it'll let me know when it's done, but I cannot start a cycle.
Gotcha.
But I can also download other people, like almost like Madden rosters. I can download other people's wash cycles if I wanted
right.
to.
There you go.
Like, oh, these are good for delicates. These are good for these things. So like if I wanted to wash my banana hammocks in a nice rinse cycle, it'll be good.
Why don't you just hit the delicates button?
Maybe my delicates are a little more delicate than other
People have
delicates
hacked
that
this
they
stuff,
just pre-program
and it's
in.
great that we can crowdsource it like this.
EMP, save us now.
Alex, I have to keep you updated. So, well, I have to keep the listeners updated as well. So my run through with Comcast is kind of sort of still ongoing. So I got an email. I got my damage claim submitted on July 2nd. I got an email saying it'll take a business day, but this July 2nd thing happened like at the end of the day. So I'm like, okay, I'll give them the 3rd plus the 4th. They're probably off. Like they probably have the employees in for mandatory training on how not to treat people. And then Monday would be like their first business day back, and then Tuesday. I didn't hear anything back by Wednesday. So I just sent an email saying, hey, I'm sure this is standard practice from Comcast saying one business day and making someone wait an entire week, but this is a little ridiculous. Please fix my shit. I got an email back saying, oh, you don't have to reply to this. That's fine. And then the next day, I got a text message saying, hey, we tried calling you, but you didn't answer. You can respond to us via text. We just need to know a little information. I'm like, okay, I'm at work, and also I disable non-known phone numbers from my phone, so it doesn't ring when I hear it. And I'm at work, so whatever. But I get a text. They are about to send some third-party company out to fix this, but I have to make sure that my invisible fence company won't like void our warranty or something if we have a third party come and fix it. But I'm also like, I don't trust a third party hired by Comcast to come fix my invisible fence. So I need to figure out what's going on with my invisible fence company first to see what's going on there. So we're going on a week plus at this point of getting this shit resolved.
That's so
How do you
sad.
fix it if you can't see it?
It's buried. Like there's a line, but Comcast cut
It's
that
invisible.
line.
Walk right into it.
Not exactly what it works, how it works, Matt, but let's trip into a segue and we'll hear from our friends Tim and Joey over at Two Blokes from Blighty on the Game Club pod feed. And when we come back, the three of us will talk Superman.
That was so clumsy.
Hi, I'm a bloke,
And I'm another bloke.
and we are from Blighty. My name is Joey. I'm joined by my co-host Tim,
Hi.
where every single Wednesday we come at you through the Game Club pod podcast feed with our show, Two Blokes from Blighty. I tried to think about the kind of topics that we talk about on Two Blokes from Blighty. Tim, what's your favourite topic that we've ever spoken about across our 3 seasons?
The fiasco of me shaving my head.
Mine is the fiasco of you shitting on a toilet seat. If those sound like things you want to hear about, join us every Wednesday by searching Game Club Pod in your podcast provider.
Just makes my life sound a little bit tragic, really, doesn't it?
Would you listen to that show, Tim?
I would.
I don't think I would.
No.
No.
I listen to it every Wednesday before I listen to Talking Smack to make sure that it uploaded properly, which I should probably do in reverse.
I don't get to be a little stinker like this, except when I'm on mic. So I've got a lot of energy built up. It's been a little while since our schedules have coordinated.
Okay, what do you need to be a stinker about?
Well, I was just thinking about the invisible fence thing we were talking about before.
Okay.
I'm still confused as to how me having a 1-story ranch house where I can see my attached garage is like privilege.
I think in my house, every window is either facing a different side of the house or front facing forward, and the garage juts out further than that, so we can't see. I assume Josh's house is the same way. So
My garage is flush with my house.
Yeah.
You can't even like look out the window and look down and see if you can see the garage. Like it's a privilege, Alex, and you should appreciate it.
Right? With you, both of you have much larger houses than I do.
I think Alex is taking the opportunity to be a little stinker also. I don't know if he's normal like this when I'm not around.
I've already mentioned the sass. The sass is. We went to go see Superman on the Tuesday screening from Amazon Prime members, and I sent him a text to let him know that I had arrived since I had bought our tickets, and I was just like waiting for you in the lobby, and he's like, "Go fuck yourself."
Okay, all right.
To be fair, I paid you back after that remark in money.
That's why you never go to a second location with him.
Oh, that's
It's
just
the
true.
secondary locations is where
Yeah.
they get you.
Mhm. I mean, I offered to drive you to your car, but you turned me down.
Well, my car was literally kitty corner from yours.
Of course it is, because I'm a cat. Everything's kitty corner for me.
I think I might actually be busy tonight. I'm gonna go.
Well, first we got to hear your thoughts on Superman, Matt, as probably the biggest.
It was good. I'll see you later.
As probably the biggest Superman fan and probably defender and like person who kept pulling me from the cliff, because like going into this movie, I haven't had a great relationship with James Gunn in terms of his movies. Like I really enjoy the first Guardians. Guardians 2, I'm really not a big fan of. I like Guardians 3 more than Guardians 2, but it is really, it's just a little too heavy-handed in some of its stuff, and it's really gross in other things. Like he just became more James Gunn that I was more aware of pre-Marvel
Sure.
with him. And him taking on Superman, I just was so nervous that Mr. Bottom of the toy bin, who loves like his gross out special effects, and he produced a what if Superman was evil origin story with Brightburn. How does this guy tackle Superman? I do have to get one thing off my chest really quickly. And I don't know if you had this in your screening, Matt, but in the Amazon Prime member screening, James Gunn was there with Rachel Brosnahan and David Corn Sweat. And he's like, this is a movie I wanted to write since I can remember. And I leaned over to Alex and was like, is that within the last 2 years? Because he's been on record several times saying, I don't know how to write Superman. I don't understand him. And then he had the in with crypto. And like, that's what opened up the script for him. I just was like, don't lie to me. This is like, I'm here willingly. You don't have to pander to me. You already have my money.
What did he say when you said that to him?
He didn't respond,
Okay.
which I thought was really rude. But then the movie kept continuing on.
Oh,
I don't think we were mic'd up properly for him.
it's a shame.
Yeah, it's
That's
a
a
shame.
shame.
I think they forgot to give us our mics because I was wearing the wrong Superman shirt and Alex came in wearing a Defenders of the Earth shirt.
I see.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep.
They were like, I don't want to deal with these stinkers. Yeah, I think we are. We have discussed it in the past, the three of us, and I think of the three of us, I am the biggest James Gunn booster. I wouldn't call myself like a super fan, but I think comparatively to you two, I get the sense that I'm higher on his work generally than the two of you have been in the past.
That's unequivocally true, I would say. I think I'm a little more willing to give him the benefit of the doubt than like Alex was leading into this. Like I think I was more hopeful for
Right.
this movie than Alex was. But I think that Alex was also hopeful in his own way, but he was just maybe a little more skeptical because
I'm not sure
of
that's an emotion that he feels, in my experience.
skepticism or hopeful.
Either.
I have hope adjacent things. I think fear of disappointment is probably the bigger one.
There you
I'm
go.
afraid of being disappointed by a movie.
Yeah.
That's like hope, right?
Yeah, I suppose so. So all that reestablished, what do you think?
I walked away from this movie very happy. I feel like this is probably the best version of Superman that James Gunn could have given us. And it did feel like a Saturday morning cartoon. Like it felt like watching an episode of Superman, the animated series, or Justice League Unlimited, where some of the like C-list, D-list tier heroes show up and help out with this Superman story.
Yeah.
Really, really enjoyed it. And there are some nitpicks that I have and some like James Gunn isms that I feel like were unnecessary, but he's going to do his thing. And if he's going to do his thing, like the things that he did do, I can tolerate.
I was pleasantly pleased by the movie.
All right.
Yeah. There are numerous faults to it, but in terms of establishing what I think James Gunn can do, I think it hit right within the wheelhouse. It kind of reminds me of like Edgar Wright.
Sure.
Like Edgar Wright no longer surprises me with what he does. He seems to have like he has his trademarks, his shtick. Each movie is going to display them, and it's really hard to surprise anymore. If anything, I felt that Gunn had a bit of restraint, which was pleasing because, you know, I know James Gunn from was it Bug or no Sliver?
Slither.
Yeah, one of
I
the
know
early
from
movies.
Slither, and then he did like a bunch of like web skits, like PG-13 porn and other stuff. And then I did Guardians of the Galaxy. I liked it. 2 diminishing returns and just loathed 3. So I wasn't surprised when there was some very gross body humor stuff. Apparently he cut out the animal cruelty because he was surprised it tested poorly because WB made him do test screenings. And apparently people don't like crypto being punched. But overall, I was pleasantly surprised by how enjoyably chaotic it was.
You know, it's one of those things where I do sort of wonder, you mentioned him maybe lying to you in the private screening you had with him and the stars of the movie. It's one of those things where I sort of wonder, like, I think Superman can be a very hard nut to crack in terms of story. I think a lot of people see him, I would say incorrectly, as like a boring character or like a hard character to do like a big movie or a good story around, because he's not necessarily a character who you think of as having internal conflict or like the kind of grittiness like a Batman kind of lends himself to naturally, right? So I can imagine a scenario where like he, you know, one thing you can say about him is that he knows his stuff, right? Like
He does his research. He knows his guys.
yeah, the Guardians movies, like Peacemaker, all that stuff is like, you could feel that there is at least a deep love for the source material. And like you say, he does the deep dive if he doesn't have the familiarity with it. So I can imagine a scenario where he's like, oh, I love Superman, but I can't figure out a story with him until he gets to Crypto, right? Where he's like, always wanted to write a Superman movie and then can't crack the nut until this other thing. But that's kind of beside the point. I really, really dug this movie, and I mean, we'll dissect it. I don't know that I have deeper thoughts than that, short of bouncing off of you guys. But, you know, I went in very hopeful because, like I said, I'm the bigger gun head of the three of us, the bigger gunner, whatever you want to call us. It wasn't like a thing where I'm like, oh, that's my favorite movie of all time. But yeah, I was not let down.
A lack of disappointment, I think, might be one of the better ways of putting this movie, is that it is just really solid. It's done competently. Everyone's characterized really well. It surprisingly doesn't feel bloated given the amount of characters that are in this movie. And you still get moments throughout it. Like, looking back on it, it's been almost a full week since Alex and I saw it on our Tuesday screening. I think the only thing that really surprised me in terms of what wasn't there was the amount of Clark Kent. And the story really doesn't need him, but I appreciate that there are at least a couple of scenes with him. You get the first moment with him in the Daily Planet, and where he's just like full on Clark Kent. He's just being a goofball in his own way. And then later on, you have that apartment scene that we see in the second trailer where he and Lois are hanging out on a date. And that's kind of where the real in between comes in, where like he's Clark Kent, he's Superman. And then in private moments with the people who know who he is, that's where you really meet like the true guy. I thought that was a really nice dynamic that they created. But I could have used a little more Clark in terms of just like him interacting with Jimmy Olsen, or even Superman interacting with Jimmy Olsen, because Jimmy feels more like a Lois sidekick than a Superman or Clark Kent. But you get a little bit of that dynamic and relationship that he has with Clark in that first page or that first scene where he's like all happy about his front page story.
It's interesting just because like you understand why that's the case, just because of the way the movie kind of unfolds.
Yeah, the way the story flows, like you don't miss him. Like you're not really thinking about like where's Clark? Why is no one asking where Clark is?
But then you're thinking about it later, and it's also part of the way that Gunn approached launching this new universe with this movie. But you sort of realize later, like, oh yeah, like these movies usually have a sort of pattern to them where there's like it's him kind of figuring out his identity, or like navigating his identity, his secret identity, and that's just not really a factor in this movie in a way that is a thing that, like you said, I think I wish maybe there was a little more of that, but I didn't necessarily miss it. It wasn't until I was thinking about it later that I was like, oh yeah, that was really just the one scene where he was in like full on Clark Kent mode.
That's one of the things where it's unique, where you have a moment where you have Clark Kent, and then the rest of the movie happens and he's basically just Superman the entire time, with a few little smatterings here and there of him like being on the Kent ranch and being in Lois's apartment. But the movie doesn't feel like it's really missing Clark, because they do a really good job of making you feel like Superman is Clark. Like you're not missing one or the other. And the way the movie is cut, if you add in Clark Kent stuff, then it starts to feel a little bloated and a little bit of padding, because now you're just slowing stuff down for just adding in a Clark Kent scene. And I think it's a kind of a rare occasion where a movie, I think, is like the perfect length it needs to be without anything added in, which like that's a James Gunn staple, is he says like the final cut is what we want it to be. There's no director's cut. There's nothing like that coming.
I don't know. It could have been a little bit shorter, man. I was getting a little bit of Man of Steel fatigue at the last fight thing. I was like, dear God, please end soon.
It is definitely interesting. Not necessarily in a bad way, just that like they really fuck up the city in a way that is not unreminiscent of Man of Steel, but it is maybe slightly more it's obviously slightly more comic booky than the very direct like 9/11 imagery that Man of Steel was evoking.
One of the things I said to Alex as soon as the movie was done, and we'll move into spoiler territory at this point.
I guess
we haven't given our rating yet.
Okay, fine. It's a must
spoilers.
See.
No,
it's a must see for me.
Excuse me. This is really rude. Let's go around the horn. Matt, you first. You're the guest. What is your?
He's the star of the show. Excuse you.
I'm gonna guess, just because I haven't gone a while. I didn't get bumped down a guest star status.
Sorry, Matt. Currently guesting, but always the star of the show.
Yeah.
What was your smack rating?
Yeah, go see it. It's great. Must see, I guess. Is that one of the ratings?
Thank you.
Okay, sorry.
Yes. It's a must see or tire fire. Those are the only ratings that we have, and they're trademarked, patent pending. Josh,
It's a tire fire of a must see. No, it's a must see.
Oh, okay. And now, Josh, you have to introduce me.
Oh, Alex, and what did you? Thank you for telling me how to run our show.
You didn't introduce me by my title.
Since when do you have a title?
I do have a title.
Are you like in the market for like a new regular like second chair? It's like soon you might be.
He's really trying to gaslight me all of a sudden. I think he's mad that he enjoyed the movie.
To answer your question, Matt, I have been looking to replace Josh,
right?
But don't bring it up. No, I think it's a must see as well. It is pleasantly surprised. It is quick. It is breezy. It is coated in sugar and sprinkled with Nathan Fillion. And who doesn't love that? Now we can move on to spoilers.
So moving into spoilers, Matt, you bring up something that as soon as the movie was done, I leaned over to Alex and I said, he's a good boy. Then I said, I really don't want to have any mention of previous directors or previous Supermen in this episode review. But I do have to mention that James Gunn did the thing that it's a very comic booky thing, but Zack Snyder just did not want to do it for whatever reason it may be. But in Man of Steel, he just had them destroy the city, hundreds of thousands, tens of thousands of people killed in Metropolis during this battle in the whatever the terraformer is. But in this one, they literally take a moment to be like, this is a mandatory evacuation. Everyone get out.
Right.
Okay. As far as the movie and like comic book logic is concerned, everyone has gotten out, even though,
right.
There's
That's
some
not how it works.
Red-hatted American who is just sitting there like, they ain't going to come down my house. They have taken a step to be like, there will be no mass casualties. Everyone has left the city. We've evacuated in the 20 minutes that it's taken to have this rift come our way. But that's like the only thing I really want to say about any kind of comparison between previous Superman directors and actors. But if you have other things to say,
I have two thoughts about what you just said. One of them is directly related to the movie. The other one is not. I do think it's tough because with a movie like this, it's very difficult not to be thinking about them in the context of the different iterations of the character that have come in the past, right? Mm-hmm. And the way that manifests a lot, unfortunately, because discourse online is the gutter fire that it is now, it automatically becomes, is this better or worse than the last one that we love or hate or whatever, you know? So, and I think there are ways, and we don't have, maybe we'll get into this, maybe we won't, but I think there are ways to talk about it in comparison that are not about restore the Snyderverse or whatever the fuck, you know, like, and we don't have to dig deep into that. It's just a thought that I've been having because there are things about this movie where I'm like, you know, that is not dissimilar. At least there are some things in this movie that are similar to like Man of Steel that are just, at least in terms of like plot beats, but Gunn takes it in his own way. And, you know, we don't have to, I'm not trying to derail this and make this the thing you said you didn't want it to be, but I think if we did go in that direction, it would be like a natural thing. It doesn't have to be Gun Bro or Snyderhead or whatever else, and that's the winner.
Yeah, and I get that. I really want to try and review and discuss the movie on its own merits.
I get
like,
that. Yeah.
If there's a comparison to make, like, feel free to make it. But like for me personally, like that's the only thing I really want to talk about in comparing the two. For my points.
And it's not even necessarily like trying to persuade you or correct you or anything. It is so frustrating that it feels so fraught to even discuss it in that context because people are so fucking weird about
defending something that has been dead for like 5 years essentially at this point.
Or defending something that, you know, is one movie deep or previous to this they hadn't seen. You know, it's just like it's all a fake man that flies around, you know, like who gives a shit? It doesn't matter.
Well, something that I remember, Josh, because it just popped back into my head, was there was criticisms over Man of Steel and the whole deaths of 1,000, tens of thousands of people, and they made a point in Age of Ultron to say we're getting everyone off of this thing so no one dies, to then in Batman v Superman, they made a point to say that final battle, oh, we're an abandoned warehouse district, everybody clears out here at 5 a.m. or something like that. And so it's just a continued iteration of the directors trying to get ahead of pissy people online talking about mass casualties in movies.
Well, and for a while, it's just interesting just because as superhero movies became more and more bombastic, I think, and especially, again, not to keep dragging us into this place, I think Man of Steel is very interested in that sort of more on terror like imagery, for better or worse, right? Where so like it is very specifically evoking 9/11, like, and I joked before, but I think that is what he's going for. So it's like it's hard not to draw those comparisons, but it also doesn't feel necessarily great if you're watching it in a Superman movie. And the other thing I was going to say before I derail this, apologies, is the thing that's actually about the movie is it is like very nice to see this movie that is so invested in like Superman and the other superheroes who are like still seen as kind of maybe not jerks, but like, they're not necessarily on the same page as Superman, they're the same wavelength. They are saving people left and right. There's a scene where this is maybe the scene that I thought was maybe taking it a little far, where like Superman makes a point to save a squirrel, right? Where I don't know,
awesome.
There's probably something. It's cute, but I'm like, there's probably something else you could have better used.
He's Superman. He knows that
moment.
There's nothing else more important than that squirrel in that moment.
But the point being, though, it's very much about Superman as a savior, a hero to save people.
Yeah, no, I particularly like that David Sweetcorn's performance in the way that he seems exasperated constantly by everyone else, because he's trying to kite the kaiju out of the place without stomping on people or buildings or anything, which I do like that it's written that he actually checks on the people in the buildings. Mm-hmm. That, that's a nice little quick touch. While the rest of them are just like, how do we kill this thing? Do I put oven mitts on it? Do I drill this thing into its eye repeatedly? What do I do? And then I remember there's a little aside after they decide to after Mr. Terrific kills the kaiju, where Superman's like, we could have taken it to an intergalactic zoo,
right? or at least euthanized it humanely, as opposed to like blowing up its liver or whatever the fuck they did.
Yeah, I love that line because it showed the difference between the Justice Gang's approach to superheroing and what Superman was trying to do, limiting casualties and loss of life to even the person causing or the thing causing the chaos.
But what I was going to say is the exasperation is like the crux of the movie, right? Where like there is there's a core of this thing where Superman is a dude who like just wants to, he sees somebody in trouble and he goes and he helps them, and he is finding himself in a tricky situation because he did that on a mass scale that has geopolitical ramifications. And it's a whole other super villain plot, obviously, but it is a thing where the comics can get into this question sometimes, and not always satisfactorily, where it's like, why doesn't Superman or the Justice League or whoever else just like solve world hunger or like stop all the wars or whatever else? And then, there's a number of reasons narratively and in the real world context why they don't do that. But then when they decide to address it, it's usually like shitty, right? Because at the end of the day, you still have to have a world that has all this kind of conflict. So Superman has to fail or whatever. Anyway, all that is to say, it's really nice where like he's just a guy who's like, I see someone in trouble, I save them. It doesn't matter. I don't give a shit about.
Don't care about borders. Don't care about what god they worship, what color their skin is. They're in trouble. I help them.
Yeah, they were going to be like massacred, so I stopped it. That is unalloyed good. And then because he lives in a world that's complex with all these geopolitical forces, it kind of is blown up in his face, and he's frustrated that it is happening.
That whole storyline with the U.S. being aligned with was it Baravia being aligned with them, who are like the oppressors in this situation, felt very reminiscent of current political climates in the Middle East. Stuff happening in, Gaza. We'll just say it's Gaza and Israel.
No,
like it felt very allegorical to that.
Yeah, and it's a thing where I don't know how much of this was intentional, and I've seen other people say that too, right? It strikes me as a thing where I don't know exactly when he was writing this movie or when they were doing rewrites on it, if they did a ton. But it strikes me as like I think at any given point in history, that is happening somewhere, right? So like,
Yeah.
I think, and that's not this is not to discount your point at all, but it almost struck me as evergreen in an unfortunate way, because somehow it is like always relevant that some country will be doing something, justified or not. I'm not trying to wade into that in this conversation, whatever you think of the reasoning behind it, but that results in a lot of innocent people being killed, right?
Yeah, and that's fair. That's I mean, it's unfortunately a true point as well. So Alex, you were going to say something. Sorry.
I was actually impressed that a large amount of lifting is done about this version of Superman from he allowing Lois to interview him. Like that conversation between the two of them, I think that Marvelous Miss Maisel did a great job of like trying to keep him on in line of like, I'm interviewing you, not my boyfriend. And whereas Green Bean Casserole was constantly flickering back and forth between, wait, am I your boyfriend? Am I speaking as Clark? Am I speaking as Superman? And getting flustered over this person that he cares about actually trying to get him to communicate what he doesn't, because he pulls a Spider-Man by interviewing and photographing himself basically anytime something happens, and giving it to the papers so he's front page. And now that he's actually has someone ask him questions, he has to try to think through the emotions of everyone else around him versus what he believes is right, which, I mean, it's a great point. Ultimately his thing is, no matter what, no matter who's pissed off, who does what, people were going to die, and I do not allow that. Which I think the entire crux of his arc, his beliefs, unlike the Justice Gang, who doesn't care who or what they kill as long as they're getting props as the job is done. Which also I absolutely love that the Hall of Justice is being built in this, and that they have a really crappy garage. It is a joke that goes on way too long.
That's one of the James Gunn isms that I was like, I'll give you that one. Like, you haven't had many. I'll give you that one. It's the joke that goes on too long. It's like the red carpet for the tall lady, I forget her name, in Guardians 2, where they're just doing this extended sequence where they're rolling out the carpet as she's walking up to Yondu and the Ravagers, and then the carpet gets stuck and we gotta do it. But like, the garage didn't go on too long, and they even took a second to have Lois point out, like, you've got a flying saucer, but you can't get a better garage. Like, I haven't gotten around to that part yet. Sorry.
Yeah, no. So I actually really appreciate that. And that really is the entirety of his arc, is that he needs people to understand he won't stand for that. I really like that. Now that I think about it, I can't unthink about it. Lex's battle plan to fight Superman is the stupidest thing in the world. You're telling me that Superman isn't smart enough or fast enough to think that someone who shouts A5 D4 that then is relayed to another person who has to hit the command code in, that is then relayed to the Baruvian Superman or thingy, is faster than Superman taking a moment to do anything. Especially since like half the time they're just standing. Logic. I know, but now that I think about it, I'm like, half the time when they showed it, like, okay, we're gonna go to D5, they're just standing there, and he knows Superman's gonna like leap at him and be prepared for it, and just allow himself to be embraced and then like body slammed. It's weird. It's very weird.
Well, that's Lex Luthor, baby. He's a genius, and he's been studying Superman for ever, obsessively.
3 years.
Yeah, 2,500 moves he's aware of.
Yeah.
No, it's still very weird. It's like you're trying to input the Konami code while somebody else is fighting it. It doesn't really work out in the end.
Well, it helps when you're like a brain dead zombie clone guy. Like, you don't. What else are you going to do? You're standing there waiting for orders.
I really like that the brain dead zombie actually had the Lex Luthor wig from, I believe it's Superman 2. It's a really natty blonde wig with curls. I noticed that. I was like, yeah, that's a nice callback. It's not as bad as Superman 4's bad clone, but
Speaking of the clone, Ultraman being the clone and the ultimate big physical bad of the movie, this movie really challenged my face blindness that I have, because when they removed the mask and it's this big reveal of like, oh, it's Superman, I was like, oh, is that I think that's supposed to be Superman. And then they're like, oh yeah, it's your clone Superman. It's like, I knew it.
You thought it was Brad Pitt, didn't you? You're like, oh, it's Brad Pitt.
I didn't know what it was. I like the long hair threw me, and
I knew
just,
it when it was the star of the movie looking back at him.
I don't know, man. I have face blindness with certain things, and I guess handsome white men is one of them.
Yeah, bad wig. A bad wig is all you need.
So Matt, I did want to ask you like your impressions of the the interview scene, and also if you picked up on it, how when Superman and Clark are separate entities, the Daily Planet scene, we see Clark and he's talking a little lower, and he's got maybe a little bit of a Southern thing that he's trying to hide, but he's doing a different cadence with his personas. And I really appreciated that. And hopefully that's something that they're going to bring over into Batman, but it's a little different between the two, because like we said, his Clark in this one is like a little lower. He's just presenting a little differently. And then as Superman, it's a little higher pitched, maybe like his normal cadence. I don't know, but I thought that was really kind of neat that not only did they take into account the different voice idea, but they also added in a layer of like Clark being at a lower cadence.
Yeah, it's an interesting take on something that some comics, a lot of movies, I think the thing about so many Superman movies is that they're kind of in the shadow of the Donner movie, for better or worse. And that's a movie where like very committed to the idea that Clark Kent is kind of a disguise that Superman puts on, right? So that everybody's seen the video where like Christopher Reeve like takes off the glasses and he's not wearing the Superman outfit, but he changes his posture in such a way that he becomes Superman in that instance. And I think some interpretations take that farther than others. Like I don't really subscribe to the idea that like Clark Kent is just like a fiction, But this is an interesting take on that, where he is like wearing kind of schlubby clothes and he's kind of adjusting his voice a little bit. And it's not like he's not necessarily trying to hide it.
He's not the, golly gee, nerd pushing up glasses kind of Clark Kent that's from the Donner versions.
Yeah, he's not trying to like hide who he is. It's just a different facet of himself, and also probably a bit of a defense mechanism, right? Where like, many interpretations have him worried about from a young age exposing his powers and stuff. So you can imagine he like kind of maybe adopts this persona in public. But yeah, I thought it was a neat spin on that.
And then what did you think of the interview scene as someone who has studied journalism?
Yeah, it was a really, I've never been a hard-hitting, world-renowned investigative journalist that I know of, so I can't speak to like how true to life of an interview it was in that kind of case. But in terms of, to kind of get what Alex was saying, it is a really interesting moment of him like being frustrated that someone is like actively challenging him and not giving him a pass just because he's Superman, or in this case because it's his girlfriend, right? In probably the same way that you imagine when Clark is interviewing himself, aka probably just like having a conversation to himself in his head, he's not asking those really tough questions, even if it's just because the answer is obvious, which you see in that scene, right? Where like Lois is really grilling him on, why'd you do this? Why'd you do it like this? Did you think about this? Did you think about that? And he's like, no, because that doesn't matter, because the answer was people would have died. That's the bottom line. Anything else doesn't matter. So just like a really great scene that like really gets at Lois Lane as a character who is dogged and
nothing gets between her and her story.
Yeah. And that's sort of partially her, to the degree that she has an arc. That's her arc too, where she is kind of also guarded and kind of standoffish to some degree too. And, the old journalism saying, if your mother says she loves you, check it out, right? We're like, that's kind of this, where nothing you cannot say anything for sure until you have it verified with three independent sources, right? So that's her to a T, and it's flustering Superman and like Clark, however you want to, whatever, on any number of levels. And it's such a fascinating scene just because it is such a character revealing scene, and it is like working on so many different levels. I really appreciated it.
It's a great scene because it establishes Lois, like we were saying, and it also establishes Clark, and it shows that he has maybe a little bit of an arrogance to him as well, where he's just like, yeah, Lois is my girlfriend. She's a Pulitzer winning author or journalist, but like she's still going to just be on my side. She knows that I'm right. She knows that I acted properly, accordingly, whatever. But no, she's got the journalistic integrity of asking these hard pressing questions because she's trying to show that Superman acted without really any forethought of what are the political ramifications for this, because as we have mentioned, this Superman is very much people in trouble, I help.
Or even just to go, I'm not going to play with kid gloves. These are who I would ask anybody else who did that. If Guy Gardner did this, I would ask these questions, right?
Yeah.
Just like a really great way where, like you said, nothing's going to get between her and the story.
So I have a couple of, I don't know how big of gripes they are, but I have 2 gripes that really came to mind, 2.5. My first gripe is probably maybe one of the biggest spoilers of the movie, and that is I do not like the Jor-El and Lara Zor-El reveal that they sent Kal-El to Earth to spread his Kryptonian seed and take on a harem and rule over them, because it partly feels like it's James Gunn's way of like getting them out of the picture and just being like, Ma and Pa Kent are the people who raised Superman. Jor-El, Lara, they did their part in birthing him, but Ma and Pa Kent are the reason why Superman is Superman. And to a degree that's true, but in the overall mythology of this character, Jor-El and Lara Zor-El are very important characters to how he becomes Superman, not just necessarily what his foundation is that he's built with Ma and Pa Kent, but it helps him come to terms with his alien heritage as well. And I feel like it's something that they could sweep under the rug in a sequel. They can be like, oh yeah, it was doctored, or oh, they misinterpreted something, like our linguists missed something. Like maybe they said, don't do the harem thing. Don't do a big sex orgy but like just from what it left us with at the turn of the movie, I really did not care for that, because it really just felt like James Gunn was like, I don't want to do anything with the alien parents. We're just getting rid of Krypton entirely. Maybe we'll do Zod in a sequel because that's what we have to do in every Superman sequel. But like, that was one thing that I really just could have done without, where Lex could have doctored the stuff. They could have come back and said it was misinterpreted. I don't know. But that was one that really just left a bad taste in my mouth, because it really feels like a big middle finger to the legacy of Jor-El as a character, which I know is kind of hit and miss in the history of the comics as well. Like, he's come back as a bad guy. He's been the Marlon Brando type biological father in the past, the hologram, Russell Crowe, whatever it may be. I didn't like that turn.
It was dumb. I'm sorry. There's no way that passes journalistic muster, that you have the beginning statements and then there's an obvious glitch on the screen and then it's sinister. There's no one who would accept that. That's just bullshit.
Here's what I'll say. I totally get it. And I am surprised that they did not walk it back, right? Because, like, if nothing else, like, the entire second half of the message, right, reads like a thing where you are like, if it was Lex Luthor like maximally misinterpreting it or faking it to make Superman sound as bad as possible, that's what it would say, right?
Yeah.
All that said, I don't give a shit. Like, Jor-El and Lara put the baby in the rocket. That's it. I don't give a shit about them after that. The quintessential origin story for Superman is an all-star Superman. It's 4 panels. Jor-El is on one of them. It doesn't matter to me. And that's not to say you guys are wrong. It's valid feeling, but it's the kind of thing where I think it is like, I was talking before about the Donner shadow, right? So much Superman live action is like really invested in this idea that Jor-El, and to a lesser extent his Mother Lara sent them not just to save him, but to save humanity, right? Like they knew it wasn't just that we're going to get him out of here so he survives. It's also that he's going to go to this place where he's going to be a god and serve humanity. That's, that's Donner, that's fucking Smallville, that's Superman and Lois, that's all this stuff. And then
a little bit of Man of Steel.
And even if it's not that, he's some kind of presence, right? There's like an AI hologram where he's like, I'm still your dad and I'm hanging out. So like on one hand, I kind of appreciate the impulse or seeming impulse to be like, to recognize these guys don't matter that much. And we're going to do a story about Superman kind of coming to terms with the fact that maybe they're not the people he thought they were. So I think
I see what you're saying, but I feel like doing it the way they did, where they just made them like these malevolent people who are like, hey, our planet's fucked. We're sending you out on your own. Please go have a whole bunch of sex and rebuild Krypton on Earth or something. It's a really big, like, he may be your father, but he ain't your daddy line from Guardians 2. Like it's very much that, because he's trying to drive home again that John and Martha Kent are Superman's parents, which is it's something that gets lost in a lot of media in Superman that's not the comics.
Yes, and I think that's something that is kind of needed. Didn't have to be done this way, I'll grant you that. And I also think, my reading of the thing is, it is malevolent insofar as they're like saying, hey, go do this obviously bad thing, right? But it is also interesting insofar as, like, in the opening scene, when we first hear the message and we hear how important it is to Clark, it is very clear that they are not just like monsters, right? They have a deep love for their son. So it's interesting how in some ways it's almost interesting in how much they don't walk it back, because there is kind of a switch flip, right? Like you were saying, like the glitch happens and then suddenly they're like, tee hee hee, fuckfest 97.
By the way, go do some evil things and have a harem.
Yeah, but I mean, I think that it's tough because it's so broad, because it's, really gesturing at some big comics bullshit as a movie overall. But I can see some nuance there. Like, these are people who like had a deeply fucked up plan for their son, but it was a thing where they still sent him there out of love. It's just like, then they wanted him to do this other bad thing. I don't it's me defending sending your child to another planet to do a sex slavery, like.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And then you had mentioned the Shadow of the Richard Donner movies. My other issue, like my 1.5 issues that I have with this movie, is Lex Luthor's scheme. Not only does he shoot a man in cold blood in front of Superman, which I don't feel like that's something a Lex Luthor should do, him having this big plan that is essentially just another land grab that he's done in like almost every other iteration of a Lex Luthor that's not from Batman v Superman.
Yep.
He's supposed to become president and become a big foil for Superman because he's now in charge of the government. And now he's literally stuck in jail for being a traitor to the United States. Like, there's a big flaw in that scheme.
You know what that means?
Murder and the illegal prison.
Well,
and destroying several cities.
I mean, yes, we have real life allegory, or we have real life villains right now in our government and convicted felons and everything running our country. They've set up parodies in this movie. Like, there's a very obvious Tucker Carlson parody. Lex can very easily be a Cheeto Man and a Lonnie mashup. Like, I see it. I just think that it's still bad.
Well, I guess my main rebuttal is like, supposed to, in what sense, right? Because like, you could bring him back in another movie and he doesn't become president, but...
Well, no, it's not that. It's that Lex's plan in like 3 of the 6 movies
is
a land grab. Yeah, so it's not where you're going with him. It's like, do they have nothing better?
Well, I was speaking directly to the thing Josh said about where are you going with him is what I was saying.
So yeah. I was hoping you would defend, does Lex have actually any other plans other than a land grab?
Well, the thing is
cloning Superman
is, the other thing you can do with Lex Luthor if he's not president is like put him in a giant fucking purple suit of armor, and that rules, honestly. Like that's a thing you can do. I also see the plan as secondary, right? Like, that's he literally says as much. Like, this plan is secondary to me killing you, which is my plan. My plan is to kill Superman. Also, I will get this weird crypto bro island that I will rule over as a king, you know?
And like, I get that, but to the point that Lois and the Daily Planet team write up an article, an expose revealing his schemes and his machinations. And now, again, he's just going to prison or going to be murdered for being a traitor. Like,
well, so what though?
Obviously there's he's Lex Luthor. He's supposed to be around. He's Superman's biggest foil. Like, him getting caught and going to jail is not as interesting as Lex being Teflon and scheming in a way that he doesn't get caught, but Superman knows he did the thing.
But what's to say he can't come back and now he's a big supervillain and a giant suit of armor?
Okay, so
but how?
So Matt's solution is literally Superman, was it 2 or 3, where they get him out of jail so that he can steal more land. Okay, to go to Josh's point, Lex will go to jail and still be in the shadow of Donner as he gets escaped, probably from a helicopter and with a prison break. And then they will copy more things. Then he'll go
bang an old granny.
Yep, and they'll copy more from Zack Snyder, because they already did. He turns himself in and destroying a large part of a city. And what is something else that they actually just straight up took from Man of Steel?
I'm not saying it's an invalid point. I'm just saying that does not bother me at all, because there are also 40 years of history before he was Teflon Lex, right? Where he was like a super scientist who had evil schemes and he wasn't a businessman, you know? So like, can
you throw out a scheme that is not him stealing land?
Yeah, robbing a bank in a giant suit of armor.
Can screenwriters do this?
Yeah,
not comic book writers.
We already had the suit of armor, though.
This is the thing, though, right? Because this is the Donner thing. They do it because it happens in Donner. And it's not that they don't have any other ideas, but they are referencing the movie everyone references. And like, this movie is guilty of it too. But like, Superman Returns is a weird one because it's a quote unquote direct sequel, but they just have him do the thing again, right?
Kryptonite Island.
Yeah. So it's just like, it's one of those weird things where, this is kind of what I was getting at earlier. So you can't escape the gravity of some of the previous shit where, you know, I saw it less as this is what the whole thing hinges on. It's like, oh, they're just finding a way to reference Donner, you know. It's not great, but it's not the crux of the thing, and everything else works well enough that it passes the muster test, the smell test for me. You know, I recall I think it was the Jeff Loeb Superman Batman, the first arc of that run in like the mid 2000s, where he was the president, and then they exposed his crimes, and he's like, all right, time to get in my giant suit of armor and beat the shit out of Batman and Superman. So like, there's all kinds of stuff you could do with Lex Luthor in another movie if you want to bring him back. He's just not sitting in the office again.
Yeah, I understand they can walk it back. I'm so frustrated with the land grab thing, which, to your point, they say like that's not important. That's not the scheme. It's a benefit to the plan to kill Superman. I get that. I really want like a false positive ending for Superman with the Lex Luthor, where Superman wins, but Lex gets away. And not only gets away, but like the public does not change its perception of him. Because again, we have real life shit like that happening right now. And it's a perfect allegory that you can make.
I think it's also too, if I had to venture a guess, it's the movie problem a bit, right? Where like,
you want the audience to go home happy.
The villain of this movie is Lex Luthor. In the next movie, it will be a different villain, probably, right? He might still appear. Yeah, Zod, somebody else. In a TV show or a comic book, it's designed so that these characters, you know, why does Batman not kill the Joker? Because then he couldn't be in comic books anymore, and he's a popular character, right? So like, he can't beat Lex in any real way because then Lex is not playing the foil role that he's built into anymore, right? So, and it's the same reason within Marvel, where why do all the villains die at the end? Well, that's what happens at the end of an action movie, right? Like the villain dies at the end, that's how the movie's over. So I don't know, like I totally get it, but it's like a thing where for me it just did not bother me at all.
So I have one last question for you, Matt, and it's one I've been asking since I saw this movie. I've been sitting on it for almost a full week now. Jimmy Olsen fucks?
Yeah, of course he does. Of course he does. He fucks. He becomes a turtle man. This idea that Jimmy Olsen is like a nerd, completely ahistorical. Completely ahistorical.
I think it's the getup. It's the like proto Peter Parker getup that really just makes him look like he's asexual. He does not care about any woman. The only thing he cares about is being buddies with Superman.
He loves banging Lois's sister. He loves going on adventures and like getting betrothed to princesses in like the Ape Kingdom or some shit. You got to read some Silver Age Jimmy Olsen comics. They're fucking insane.
Alex is pondering very hard. I'm wondering what sass he's coming up with.
No, it's no sass. I remembered a point that bugged the shit out of me.
Can I say one thing about Jimmy Olsen? I'm sorry. One thing about Jimmy Olsen. Then I'll let you go. I promise. Do you remember that season of Smallville where they introduced Jimmy Olsen?
No, I never watched Smallville.
They introduced Jimmy Olsen, and then at the end of the season, they killed him off. And then at his funeral, you saw his younger brother, James, a.k.a. the real Jimmy Olsen.
Oh, God.
So they named two kids James. What is their dad? George Foreman?
Yeah, Pete and Pete. What a stupid fucking show. I love it so much. Anyway, go ahead, Alex.
Please tell me the dad's name was also James.
I don't know if they revealed that, but I wouldn't be surprised. James Jr., James the Third, but they're both brothers.
No, I just realized something this movie completely just blew past. And so at the beginning of the movie, we have the overly long title crawl, or factoid, I guess. And it says 3 minutes ago, Superman lost for the first time. And then he gets briefly kind of like somewhat healed up and goes back and fights, gets his ass kicked. They never address him having any issue with having his ass kicked and like the world losing faith in him. And he doesn't even really care he got his ass kicked like towards the end of it. You'd think that somebody for 30 something years is like just wrecking everything's face, would have a little bit of self-doubt after getting your ass handed to you publicly twice.
Well, it's because like 2 days later, suddenly it's like your entire life was a lie. So it's like you got bigger fish to fry at that point.
Yeah, it's just, but he didn't even just, maybe it was in the article, but
Superman
everybody
is
says
nothing
he can't
if
write
not
for
resilient.
Shit. But everyone says he can't write for shit, apparently, according to the article. So, I mean, not even Lois is like, dude, are you all right? You just got fucked up.
You can't say that to your boyfriend. You can't say it to your boyfriend who's in an international incident.
I just realized that. I was like, huh. Like, that's really weird that he just kind of got, like, even when the bad guy shows up again to kick his ass, Ultraman or whatever, he never, like, is like, how am I going to do anything differently? No, he's just going to get his ass kicked with D10, Z12, K38, and all that crap.
It is interesting insofar as, like, that is just the inciting incident, obviously, or the incident after the inciting incident, which is a thing I want to touch on in a bit. But I don't think they ever acknowledge to each other that like, oh, this is the guy that kicked your ass in the beginning of the movie. Like they mention it in the scene where they're all running to the top of the Daily Planet, but they're never like, hey, Superman, I'm the guy that was in the big suit of armor that you thought was this other guy, which is kind of funny. He just thinks there's this other guy who gets his ass kicked until later Lois is like, oh yeah, that was the same guy that kicked your ass. You just wearing a suit of armor.
Well, he also has like a suspicion anyway, because they talk about how he thinks that the hammer of Baravia is
that's right,
is putting on an accent. So
yeah, like it's in the article.
He
or
has
something.
some weird suspicion. Yeah.
Not necessarily to your point about Ultraman, but to your point about the opening crawl and how we sort of start in the middle of the movie. Something that really reminded me of, which I really appreciated, and I don't know if this is intentional, but I feel like maybe it might be a little intentional, is like I think this is a time that has kind of passed in comics, but it used to be like a really great way, maybe the best way to get into comics was just like going and picking up something at the comic book store, like, or at the 7-Eleven off the shelf, right? Like you didn't have everything at your fingertips. You didn't have the internet, whatever else. So like you just open up the comic book and it's like, maybe it's in the middle of a story. There's a bunch of weirdos here. And you're just like, you just jump right in and you figure it out as you go. Maybe there's some explanatory captions. Maybe there's just no context. And this movie really evoked that feeling for me as someone who like came up and maybe the last time you could reasonably do that, in like a very complimentary way, where it's like, oh, this is like picking up Superman 724. And I think it was a really smart way to do this, just because like everyone knows Superman's deal, and then you just are establishing quickly like this is a thing. These guys have been around forever, and there's a bunch of them. So like you don't have to worry about the how and why of it too much. It's like this is the world we're in a world where like, you know, the MCU, which I appreciate and like just fine, but they are very invested in this is a new character. We're going to really go through their origin.
The establishment of the wider DC universe is something that's really impressive with how they handle it here, because it does just feel like a lived in universe already. They establish with that opening title card sequence 3 million years ago, whatever, all the way up to 3 minutes ago. And then Superman crashes in and showing the Justice Gang, which Nathan Fillion, super fun as Guy Gardner, Isabella Merced as Hawk Girl. I didn't realize Hawk Girl could screech like a hawk, or was that something that they added in?
I think that's just something for the movie, although it might be some deep cut that is not. I don't think that's normally part of her power set in the comics, but maybe at some point in the past it was. I don't know.
Yeah, I wasn't a fan of that. I thought that was a little too far. Like, and then we have to. Where's my round of applause button for Eddie Gathegi as Mr. Terrific? We gotta.
Oh, yeah, I mean that.
Yeah,
probably maybe one of my biggest like oh shit moments in that movie was the action set piece that he is the center of. Well, sort of like Lois is the center of it, but she's like watching him.
The Rocket Raccoon and Guardians 2
was
sequence,
a really great thing. I'm like, oh yeah, that Mr. Terrific can be a badass, which is really great.
Yeah, that scene I was a little taken out of, because that is the other James Gunnism that I was really just like, oh, he's doing this again, because he did it in Guardians 2. He did it in the Suicide Squad. I'm assuming he might have done it in Peacemaker, and now he's doing it here. So like that's just become a Gunn staple for a movie, is having that like 360 action sequence, which like it's cool, but it's attached to a movie that I'm not fond of. So I'm just like, eh.
It's good to sign your work.
I mean, how many bad cool guys moments we're gonna have when they walk away from fire before we get tired of it? I was just annoyed that it was like, okay, so it's the same look, like it's even the same red streak that the whistle arrow thing has, and I was like, oh yeah, it's the exact same thing.
Did you not watch Peacemaker, Josh? Because it rules. You should watch it.
I haven't. No, I don't have HBO. I don't have any way of watching it.
No, it has John Cena in it. I'm sure it's not great.
Well, I'm here to tell you it's good. I'm very curious. This is a total aside. I'm very curious. The new season comes out in August. I'm very curious to see how they're going to square that circle, because you know he's got a cameo in this movie. The first season of that show is very squarely in like the later DC expanded universe, right? Where it's like this is following up directly on the events of the Suicide Squad.
Yeah,
this
I've
is
heard like the Flash and Aquaman show up, and there's like silhouettes of Wonder Woman.
Yeah,
and
there's
Batman
like a very
or
brief,
something.
and they're like referencing all that stuff. So like, I'm very curious where supposedly this is going to matter for the universe going forward. But I'm very curious to see how they square that circle. Anyway, that's neither here nor there.
So I think we would be remiss to not talk about the big marketing push of this movie, which is crypto. We mentioned him a few times when we're talking about James Gunn trying to crack the script, and crypto was his in. And with this movie, I was shocked at how little crypto there was considering the marketing. Sorry, my cat's trying to break into my room.
Yeah, well, my mic died, so you got to let me share it.
He's not on screen maybe as much as you would think, but he is sort of like almost the crux of the movie. Like basically the entire, the second act is like motivated by this guy took my fucking dog and I'm going to get him back.
Yeah, I was just shocked that crypto maybe had 10 minutes of screen time, something to that effect. Maybe a lot of it was reduced, and maybe like people just found him a bit too uncanny valley. I don't know, but I was shocked that it wasn't really about like the heart of the story wasn't about like kind of a Marley and Me situation of Superman learns to love the bad dog, or the bad dog gets a little bit better, and they work into some kind of like symbiotic relationship. I mean, we have that moment where Clark's a little bit, but it doesn't, to me, it doesn't feel natural. Like it's more like, oh, Clark got really beat up in the Rift area, the Phantom Zone, whatever it may be. And now Crypto's just snoozing on him, making sure he's okay.
And the payoff at the end doesn't work very well either. turns out it's not his dog, and it's his dog's actually owned by a drunk.
That's good though. Sorry, that's good.
I was okay with it.
Well, it's just, it just seems like a very long setup for like a really kind of crappy joke kind of thing.
James Gunn specialty.
Mm-hmm.
This is my called shot, maybe reading too much into what is a joke scene at the end of the movie. But I cannot remember the actor's name because I don't watch.
Billy Alcock?
Yes, I don't watch. I'm not a nerd. I don't watch Game of Thrones.
Well, it's really good, and I think you should watch it. I think you should be aware of that.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm not going to.
Well, I mean, you should, and I'm encouraging you to.
If I have to watch Peacemaker,
good.
you have to watch Game of Thrones, or at least.
I should clarify. I watched the entirety of Game of Thrones, and there's no way they're going to get me again to watch this other
season 1 of House of the Dragon is actually quite good.
Yeah, season 1's good.
Season 1 is really
interesting.
Good.
How many seasons are there?
2.
1.5.
Okay, thank you.
Actually, Josh is right. 1.5.
So anyway,
1 3/4.
all that is to say, she shows up as Supergirl at the end. She's getting her own movie.
Mm-hmm.
It's already been announced. I am low key suspecting one of the interesting. Sorry, okay, this is maybe a long walk to get where I'm going. One of the things a lot of Superman stuff does, and it's not just movies, it happens a lot in the comics too, is having Clark be like very invested in Kryptonian culture. Like longing for it. So, a lot of movies he kind of treats Jor-El like his dad more than Jonathan, which we talked about a little bit here, and that never works for me for some of the reasons we talked about with the Jor-El Jonathan stuff. But also, like there is a character for whom that fits a lot better, and it's Supergirl, because she lived there before it blew up. So like one of the things I'm wondering with that scene is it like gesturing at her movie being about the fact that like, oh yeah, my entire civilization was wiped out when I was a teenager, and then I woke up and this baby that I was supposed to take care of is now a grown man with a job.
It's almost like a PTSD and loss of purpose double whammy for her.
Yeah, and I don't know if that is like a thing that the movie will explore, or even it might not even be a good thing for it to explore, because again, this is baby cartoons for kids, but it's a thing where that's not an angle that gets explored terribly often, even in like Supergirl comics. And it could be like an interesting angle if it's like, oh yeah, she's a party girl, haha, joke. Oh, actually, maybe there's like something else going on there. Maybe it's just a thought that I had.
Yeah, I'm very excited for Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow, or Supergirl, whatever it may be. The director of it, I know he directed I, Tonya. I'm looking up his IMDb now. Looks like he did Lars and the Real Girl, which I love that movie. He seems to be an interesting choice, especially with the I, Tonya background. He also was an executive producer on Pam and Tommy, producer on Dumb Money, which no, thank you. He was also a consulting producer on United States of Terrorists. Like he's got some pedigree to him. And I feel like that's something that he could tackle pretty well, if that's where they're going with the characterization of Supergirl, where she's like this like drunk party girl who's drinking to suppress her like PTSD and depression.
Absolutely could be me reading too much into a joke. And even if not to draw too many parallels to the thing we're kind of talking around, but I remember I'm not a big fan of Man of Steel. I'm not trying to raise the debate. I don't like it very much. I remember when that movie came out, and people were like, "Oh, but that ending could lead to such a cool Superman sequel, and that'll make this movie better." And I'm like, "No, it doesn't. A movie that's not good is a movie that's not good, right?" So like, none of that is to say, "Oh, it's not a shitty joke." I thought it was fine, but if you don't like it gesturing at some deeper thing, if that's what they're doing, doesn't necessarily mean, "Oh, it's great now." More of a thought that I was reminded of than you're wrong because you're actually downplaying this fictional character's PTSD, you monster. I would say that anyway to you little stinker, but I'm not getting nothing from you right now. I'm getting nothing from you right now.
I'm just trying to think about it, and if they actually somehow pull that off better than Peter Quill in Guardians 3 with his drunkard PTSD crap that went nowhere, I will actually give you an applause. And speaking of which, Josh, I need you to have actually an applause, because I went back through our episodes and I was wrong and you were right.
That's usually the case.
It was, in fact, from the poster, not a sky beam. It was something shooting downward. It was a floating eyeball in the sky being fought by the Justice Gang as Superman was suiting up. You said, I guarantee you it is not a sky beam. And I was wrong. And I said I would apologize.
I don't remember that
on
but
the podcast.
I mean, I find it hard to believe that anyone would think that's a sky beam. So I'm blaming your weird cat eyes and inability to see color.
To me, it looked like a sky beam shooting up to something, but it was a crappy pose. So we're mostly debating whether or not the suit was too baggy.
Which, I mean, the suit looked great. I loved the way the colors popped. Alex, before we get closing out here, I really need to know, did the robots grow on you? Because I know you really hated that first clip that they released where they made the joke of, we're cold, unfeeling robots. We wouldn't feel anything, but if I could, I'd feel honored or something. And that was a joke that you really didn't care for. But like, did the movie change your opinion on those jokes? Because to be fair, I actually really enjoyed them. I like the idea of being like, I would feel gratitude if I could, but I'm a cold, unfeeling robot, so I can't.
I did like the robots, and I would like to say that we have not given enough praise to Maria Gabriela de Fiera, also known as the engineer.
Sure.
I can fix her. I you know what? I can accept she hurt nobody in that film. Crypto is fine. He was fine. Superman is fine. The robots were fine. They even put themselves back together.
She did hurt the reputation of Jor-El and Lara Zor-El.
Oh, that was the writer's fault.
I think attempted.
She's a lovely person, and I think that she needs, and I hope she's in the next one, because they even went so far as to say when she's buried in the ground, like, she still has a heartbeat. She's just passed out. So maybe she's a little kinder, a little nicer. I respect her.
Attempted murder is still a crime.
Love that shot.
Hey,
I did love that shot where she like does a handstand and then she like flips herself like through her nanobots. That was cool.
Yeah, there's some very cool visuals with her.
Okay, attempted murder may still be a crime, but actual murder is a crime, and Superman killed his clone.
Attempted destruction of a city, planet. She's at least an accessory to that.
I don't know if she can be an accessory to something that that Luthor did.
She worked for him. She was his henchman.
I think everyone in that room gets put in jail before she does for that crime.
She was in the room often.
She wasn't at the keyboard like the dude who was like, hey, listen, let me tell you how to type in the code to turn this off. And Mr. Terrific goes, I'll figure it out, and moves him aside and destroys more of the city as he hacks it.
Yeah, but she's not at the keyboard, but like the people that are at the keyboard are like, hey, engineer, are you doing the crime? You're doing the crime right now, right? And she's like, I'm doing the crime, sir. I'm on my way to the crime. I could do more crime right now. And he's like, no, come back. We'll do the crime later.
All I know is that I'd be willing to be to be her defense and her therapist. I can fix her.
I don't know if that would be ethical.
Sounds like a lot of this is unethical.
Well, neither is putting your exes in a pocket dimension, but it's a good idea.
Well, no one's saying Lex Luthor is ethical.
Okay. All right. Okay. We're revealing some things here.
Oh, that's another Donner shadow that we haven't escaped from, is Lex dating a bunch of bimbos.
Hey, Sarah Sampio, she did a great job. She was setting it up from the beginning that she was taking photos, everything.
Mm-hmm. She saves the day.
Mm-hmm.
It's
even with her mutant toes.
She blows the thing wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And her stalker-like love of Jimmy Olsen.
She just wants to be loved.
It was a good movie. It was fun.
Yeah, it was a good time. I liked it.
Does it leave you hopeful for, obviously James Gunn isn't doing all these movies, but he's like the creative. He's like the Kevin Feige, right? Where are you guys at with the upcoming slate of DC universe things?
That's one thing that actually I really wanted to praise. I think, Alex, you had mentioned earlier that this movie does feel really like James Gunn restrained himself to a very large extent. Like I said, there may be like 3 James Gunnisms or tropes that he has in his movies that like he just fed into, and like none of them are tied to Superman. It's like he sprinkled them in there with the ancillary characters. So I really appreciated him having that restraint for this character and for what this movie required of him to be able to launch this new universe. I think as a head of a studio, co-head of a studio, I think he has a right idea. I think I'm more concerned about his ego getting in the way, because one of the things that he's been very adamant about is that they're not going to put a movie into production until they have a script. but they have already announced a lot of stuff. And I'm more concerned about him meeting the deadlines and caving under the pressure of those deadlines and what will follow from that. Because DC, under the previous regime with the DCEU, they basically just survived for like 5 or 6 years off of announcements. And the only thing they ever produced was Man of Steel, Batman v Superman, Wonder Woman, Suicide Squad, and a really bad Justice League. Like those were it. And then the entire thing was literally crumbling as they were still producing it. But they were like, here, the Nightwing movie's coming, a Batgirl movie's coming, Blue Beetle's coming, a Flash movie, Aquaman, all these other things. And they announced like every property they had, including, wasn't there like a Booster Gold and Blue Beetle movie that they had announced? But yeah, everything and anything that they had as a property, they're like, we're working on a movie. Like, well, no shit, you probably are. You're probably investigating and trying to find out what will work or what you can get done. But just because you announced it doesn't mean it's happening. Whereas James Gunn, I think, has taken a somewhat more practical approach to it. But I saw an article recently that said their aim is like 2 movies a year and like 1 TV show a year or 2 TV shows a year. That seems like a lot. But I think, again, if he gives the creators free reign to make their movie and he's just there to offer oversight and like continuity consistency within the universe, I think that's mostly okay. But overall, I think this is a really great first step. We need to see Supergirl and how that evolves the universe. Does Peacemaker affect the universe at all, or is it more or less standalone within its own little pocket? But I think it's a good first step, and I was already interested in how this universe is going to pan out because I love DC. I love their superheroes. I just hope that he continues to fulfill the promise that he's making of letting these directors do their thing and having their own tone instead of it kind of falling into that Marvel category of it's a Marvel movie. You know what to expect. Even though it's different characters, it's going to fall into a similar style.
Yeah, and I think he's specifically kind of, at least publicly, who knows what's going on behind the scenes? We don't know shit about shit. But like that's the thing he's kind of combating, right? Where like a big thing with Marvel is like the prime example is Inhumans, right? Where you announce a movie, but you don't have a script, you don't have a director. Eventually it falls apart to such a degree that you make a bad TV show out of it, right? Where like that's been the thing where they are putting the announcements before the actual thing is starting to come together. So that's heartening where it's like, we're not going to make a movie unless we know there's a movie to be made, right? As opposed to like, we're going to map out this whole thing and we know 10 movies ahead of time, just conceptually without having anything actually aside from an idea. And I think probably working within Marvel and maybe not, I think he probably had some pretty free reign with first working on characters nobody cared about, and then that movie being such a success that he kind of got to do his own thing. But I think he probably also recognizes some of the problems other directors have had working under, that basically studio system. Hopefully that means all the things you just said are accurate.
Yeah, next year we got Supergirl and then Clayface. They said after that they're going to try to get the Authority, the Brave and the Bold, and Swamp Thing. Then they have, before the Justice League film, they want to put out Teen Titans, Bane and Deathstroke, Sergeant Rock, and Wonder Woman.
And there's also the Lanterns show that's supposed to be out sometime within the next year.
Yeah, they put out Creature Commandos. Peacemaker Season 2 comes out in August. Matt will be watching that. Lanterns is early next year. Then they have Waller, Paradise Lost, Booster Gold, Blue Beetle, Creature Commandos, and Mr. Miracle.
Yeah, I don't think a lot of those are on the slate because they had announced a whole bunch of different stuff back in January of 23, I think, or maybe it's 24. I think it was 23. I think the only real addition that I remember them adding to that list was Clayface, only because like it was something that came up and James Gunn was like, "This is an amazing script, let's do it."
The Authority, according to James Gunn,
the Authority one is one of the ones they first announced in their first handful. Yeah, for sure.
He said that it's going to be basically the world is broken and you need to kill people to fix things.
That's the Authority. They're the killing Justice League.
The Batman, the Brave, and the Bold is supposed to be focused on Damon Wayne with Andy Muschietti directing. He's the one who did the It movies. Machete.
He's the guy who directed the Flash movie, and he got a Batman movie as a consolation prize
for putting up
finally getting that made.
Yeah, but he also did It, which was okay.
He put his name on the Flash to take the heat. Like he basically was a sacrificial lamb.
Have you guys at least seen like the Peacemaker like opening credits, the cool little dance number?
I've seen bits of it. Whatever.
Peter Safran gave an update about Sergeant Rock as of early late 2024 in November, saying that he's waiting for the script to be finished.
All right.
One thing I will say about the lineup that they've made for these movies, because they're not doing phases, they're doing like chapters, and this first chapter is Gods and Monsters. James Gunn really feels like he's doing like the old 80s and 90s thing that studios and directors had, where it's like you do a studio movie and then we'll finance a movie that you really want to make.
Right. And
we'll just kind of trade on and off like that for however long. It really feels like he's doing that. Like, yeah, you get your Superman movie, but I get Creature Commandos. Yeah, you get your Batman movie, but I get Sergeant Rock. Yeah, you get Wonder Woman, but I get whatever D-list hero is on this list that I know from DC. Like it really feels like he's doing something like that. And I'm really, really waiting to see what rewards that reaps for him, if any.
And I think, I'm on record as being the guy who says, I think you can watch most Marvel movies without, most of the actual like expanded universe of the thing is pretty minimal per movie, depending on the movie. It varies. That said, it really seems in this case, they're just like, what is a cool movie we can make? And then we'll figure it out as we go, which is like, that's how most of this shit gets made. It's not like we don't map out 10 years in advance for every single franchise we have, right? Some of it's probably going to be bad. Maybe it won't amount to much, but if we at least are getting some...
You hope that they're hedging their bets at least through the budgets. Like not everything's going to be a $250 million movie.
Yeah, not everything is like some essential piece that you see for 10 movies and 4 Avengers flicks, right? So like, and hopefully if it all crashes and burns, we get some cool movies along the way, So like, I'm shrugging. You the listener can't hear this, but I'm just shrugging.
Well said.
We'll see what rolls out. Thus far, my predictions for how well movies do, or if they're interesting this year, has been shit.
Hey, at least you didn't get shut out with one of your picks.
True, but I am crying because of 2 of them.
You guys have high hopes for that new Jurassic World movie, and it let you down?
I took it in our fantasy draft, so I'm not doing too well. And I also took 28 years later.
Hey, it just crossed 500.
Minecraft.
Yeah. No, hey, it just crossed 500, Josh. You're all right. You're doing okay.
You got to prepare yourself for the Bone Temple.
Like that's going to get me. Well, no, they already shot it, so that will get released. It's whether or not the chapter 3 gets released.
This is an aside. I know we're going long. The moment that franchise lost me, I've heard 28 years later is great. I haven't seen it. The moment that franchise lost me is when they were like, we're going to name one of these movies The Bone Temple. And like, I don't care that movie is called The Bone Temple. That sounds pretty fucking cool. But you had a convention and now you fucked it up. You had a naming convention and you fucked it up. So for that reason,
is it not like 28 years later, The Bone Temple?
It is, but it's 28 days later, 28 weeks later, 28 years later, 28 years later, The Bone Temple. You fucked it up. 28 centuries later, I don't know. 28 hours later, I don't know.
We're getting smaller increments now.
It should have been 28, days, 28 weeks, 28 months, 28 years, 28 decades.
Picoseconds, yeah. 200, yeah.
28 parsecs. All right. Well, if you have a better name for the 28 franchise, I don't know what else you would call it, you can feel free to join the Discord. Matt, please let everyone know about the Discord. Alex, I know this is your usual thing, but the star of the show is here. He has to do his thing.
And my future co-host.
Do I still get stuck with the editing duties?
Yes.
Fuck.
The Discord is a cool place where we just kind of hang out and chat about shit. Sometimes it's basically like this. If you find me charming for some reason, it's basically this in text form for me. So the other guys they're about what you expect. So come join us on Discord.
I find you charming.
Thank you so much.
Please click the link in our episode description to join our Discord, or you can just find us through however Discord does searches. You can find us at Talking Smack. You can find us on all the social media platforms, including Blue Sky, Instagram Threads, Facebook, YouTube, and TikTok at Talking Smack Pod. Email us your reviews of movies that you've seen, reviews of the podcast, things you enjoyed about the podcast, things you didn't, whatever it may be. Email us at tsmackpod@gmail.com. Thank you to Leo Allen for our musical themes, Beppo for our avatars, Retro Whale Studios for our Ricky avatar. Please like, subscribe, rate, review on your podcatcher of choice. Go see Superman. Help out my my fantasy box office, please. Don't go see Jurassic World. I'll supplement your ticket to go see Superman that you were going to go see Jurassic World with. Like, just pay to see Superman and then go see Jurassic World. That's what it is. But again, please like, subscribe, rate, review on your podcatcher of choice. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button. Alex, thank you for your time. Matt, thank you so much for your time. Matt, what do you think people should be watching
this week? Are they going to say that? Are people going to start talking to me while I'm saying this?
Yes, because you're supposed to say it now.
Watch Star Trek. Stranger World is back.
Hey, quit messing around.
I'm not messing around. I'm doing important stuff.
Go watch Superman some more. David Brussels Sprout is fantastic.
Come on, man. Come on, man. He's a person. He's got a name.
Rachel Brosnahan was a great Lois. We didn't give her enough time.
No, we didn't.
Nope. All right, we got to go back.
I can fix her.